My name is Alfred Baguio. I was born and raised in Monterey County. I'm the second generation Filipino in Monterey County in my family. I'm what they call the bridge generation because I'm the bridge between my parents and my children and my grandchildren. The Filipinos first came to the United States in the early 1920s, 1919, 1920. They came because they were under Spanish rule for about over 300 years. There was a colony of Spain. And then when the Spanish-American War came to a conclusion, then the Philippines was considered a colony of the United States. So there was no barriers as far as immigrating from the Philippines to the United States. My father was born in a small island called Siquijor, and the poverty there was just horrendous. So he ran away from home, went to the big island of Cebu, where he worked in the fishing docks. Then one day, a big ship came, and the ship was from the Hawaiian and sugar plantations from Hawaii, asking for workers to work in the sugar and pineapple plantations. So my father jumped at the chance with his cousin, and they took the ship from Cebu, Dumaguete, Cebu, to the Hawaiian Islands, where they worked for several years. The working conditions were so poor there that they thought that they might as well go to the United States, since there was free passage for those Filipinos that were in Hawaii. So they took the ship and landed in San Francisco. They came to the United States in the 1920s, and they worked in the fields in the Salinas Valley in the 20s and 30s. Now, the working conditions were so poor, and the living conditions were really very bad because of the fact that they lived in low-income housing. They had just one water faucet, a cold water faucet, no indoor plumbing to speak of as far as bathrooms are concerned. So they had to dig a hole and build an outhouse. And that was a big deal for some of the labor camps, because every time the hole got filled up, they covered it up and dug another hole. During the early 30s, the Filipinos started to organize and develop a union. And this is where the strikes came in. They struck for better wages, better living conditions, and better working conditions. The strike was pretty effective for a while until the growers separated the shed workers from the field workers. What happened was that the growers offered more money to the shed workers, which were mainly people of Caucasian descent. And then after they got their wage increase, then the strike sort of fizzled out. But during that time, there was a lot of unrest, a lot of racial dissension. The people from Watsonville, from Santa Cruz County and Monterey County were very, very afraid of the fact that the Filipinos were growing in population. Then one time, there was a riot in Watsonville on Palm Beach. The riot came into existence because of the fact that the Filipinos were hiring white women to dance with them and to party with them. And then this just infuriated the white population, where they came to the what they call the dance hall and just fought with the Filipinos. They burned down the dance hall. One Filipino laborer was killed. He was killed because of the fact that he was one of the Filipinos that were dancing with the white women that were there at the dance hall. This went on for several years, and then after the riots sort of settled down, the Filipino organizations got some of the benefits from what they were asking for as far as living conditions and working conditions were concerned. During the race riots in the early 1930s, the people who were trying to picture the Filipinos as, you know, brown savages whose only purpose was to procreate with white women. The other thing is that, you know, they were called what they call monkeys. And the other thing that they felt was that, you know, they were dirty, unsanitary, had bad hygienic habits, and they were, you know, not to be trusted. And they were hot-tempered, and that they always were just gambling or, you know, raising chickens for cockfights. But the Filipinos were very industrious. They worked hard, and they were very meticulous as far as when the field work was concerned. And the farmers here in Monterey County always asked for Filipino workers because of their dependability and their reliability and their, you know, industriousness. And then the war came, and then everything sort of settled down. The Filipinos were recruited, and they had their own 1st and 2nd Filipino Regiment, which was stationed in Camp Roberts down in southern Monterey County and San Luis Obispo County. And they had their own division, and they were fought in the South Pacific, and they were very, very commendable as far as the combat team was concerned. After the war, the Filipinos started going back to the fields, but some of them were very dissatisfied working in the field, so they went into different other areas for employment. Some went into, you know, marketing. Some were the chefs here on the peninsula. Like my brother-in-law was the chef at the Pine Inn in Carmel. The chef at the Capitol Club here in Monterey was a Filipino. His name is Fidel Macahilig. There was another chef down at Rocky Point Lodge. I forget his name, but he was a Filipino chef. So they started going to different other areas of employment rather than working in the agricultural fields. And also the Filipinos were very pretty dominant as far as employment was concerned when they worked in the Alaskan canneries. And they worked in the canneries in the state of Washington and the state of Alaska, and they even worked some other islands like even Japan to get better employment other than working in the fields. But then again, the Filipinos were not given enough credit. They always felt that they were the forgotten Asian, and that the Filipinos were not given enough credit that they had contributed to the, you know, American society. And this is what this book by Dr. Fred Cordova, University of Washington, brought out. I belong to this Filipino-American National Historical Society, which has 21 chapters throughout the United States, Alaska, and Hawaii. And this is what they're trying to do, to preserve the Filipino history, to give recognition to the Filipinos that contributed to American society. This is what the purpose of this Filipino-American National Historical Society is all about. I have to go back again, that the first wave of Filipinos were what they call sacadas, you know, uneducated, unskilled laborers that were only fit to work in the fields. The second wave came that were relatives of the sacadas. Then the third wave came, what they call the pensionados, which were educated Filipinos who came to the United States to get educated, with the idea that they would go back to the Philippines and, you know, better their community. But unfortunately, the pensionados that came here, got educated, got used to living in American society, so they stayed here. Now, the fourth wave of Filipinos were all the professional people, all the doctors, the nurses, lawyers, scientists that came over here. Now, that's where we are now. And there's a large Filipino community in Marina, Salinas, Monterey, Castroville, Watsonville. I think the Filipinos are the most populated minority group here in the Monterey County, more than the Japanese and Chinese. And right now, we're trying to incorporate all these different organizations and be, some type of political force where, you know, they could do something about the working conditions or their social conditions that are, you know, that they feel that they're you know, being wronged. But philosophically, you know, like myself, my parents always said, integrate in the main society. You know, you're in America, you speak English, you do what you're supposed to do, and you contribute to the society that you're in. Don't be so different where, you know, you're being so antagonistic to the general society. And that's where we are now. There's my grandchildren are fourth generation Filipinos, and they have no idea what took place way back in 1910 and 1920s, unless I told them. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm writing our family history so that they realize, you know, what the hardship was and how brave and courageous that their great-grandparents were to come from from the Philippines to Hawaii to the United States. Maybe it was because of desperation or what, but, you know, think about it. You're unskilled, you're uneducated, but yet you had the courage to come from the Philippines to the United States to, you know, get a better life.